In this video, I want to take a look at a game that I played at a local chess club recently. And, well, the opening was a French defense. And my opponent didn't want to go into the same line that we played in a couple of other games. So he played g6, going more into like a modern defense. So after d4, bishop g7, bishop d3, now he goes d5. And here, well, I just push, get more space. After knight e7, I castled, which apparently is a novelty. It's not really in the database. Here there are several decent moves for white. One of them is c3. Another one is b4 because, well, in the French defense, usually you want to have them break c5 at some point. But after castles, c3, well, now my opponent goes c5. And here I went knight bd2. Although one of the engines recommended bishop g5, and after something like h6, just go back to f4. And here, well, okay, you could make the argument that my bishop is locked in and my rook is not really going to be able to get over to the c file if it opens up after it takes and takes. So then my opponent played this very strange looking move. Not something I would use to show a beginner, because you're moving the same piece twice in the opening. You're not developing the bishop, you're not developing the other knight. Although it's actually not a bad move. Stockfish thinks that it's a pretty decent move. So I just went back with the bishop. And now my opponent goes b6. Again, trying to activate the problem bishop in the French defense. And after rook e1, just stepping out of this diagonal because I know that the bishop is probably gonna come to a6, which is what happened in the game. Now here I play knight f1 with the idea of going knight g3 maybe, and well, I didn't mind if my opponent took the knight, which he did, because if the knight ever gets to g3, well, then the bishop is gonna be just sitting there, not really attacking anything. And I decided to take with the king because I like my rook on the e file. And now my opponent played this move c4, which I did not like. Usually it is the weaker player that releases the tension first. And if you notice, well, there's tension between the two pawns. The pawns can capture each other. And, well, when you make the capture, then you're releasing the tension. But another way to release the tension is just to push the pawn. And so now I played b3, creating again more tension between the two pawns. And now my opponent played a move which I also didn't like, knight a5, putting the knight on the edge of the board, not developing this knight. This rook is still stuck, not able to move. So I played bishop a3, attacking the rook. So rook e1, the only square. And now I put my bishop on this nice outpost on d6, and my opponent didn't like that, so he played bishop f8, which I also don't like this move positionally, because this is my bad bishop, just as the light square bishop was the bad bishop for black. And, well, this is black's good bishop, and now he's just allowing me to trade. So now the dark squared weaknesses have been accentuated, and I got rid of my bad bishop. So now I have this good bishop because, well, all my pawns are on dark squares. And after queen d2, my opponent played king g7, just stopping the queen from coming to h6, followed by knight g5 and getting checkmated. So just to show that, let's say something like this. And well, now you're getting mated unless you give up the queen. Because, well, anything else, check and mate. And here I, well, played rook e3 with the idea of putting the rook on h3, trying to provoke h4 or maybe g3. So knight d7, h4, and here my opponent played f5. I mean, the position according to Stockfish is already lost, or, well, technically lost, but I mean, we're not engines, so we're not gonna be playing the best moves. Queen e7 was another try, which I thought it was pretty good. But after f5, now after I take and rook takes, this pawn is looking very weak. So I attack it with knight g5, knight f8, ceasing the defensive. The idea is, well, you're defending the h pawn as well as the e pawn. So I just keep piling up. And after queen d7, queen e2 again. Now I have all of these attackers and the queen, so I have alkynes gone, putting a lot of pressure on this weakness. Here I was expecting rook e8, and here, well, it's not so clear how you make progress, because, well, it seems like you have enough defenders. But after h6, well, then I just win the pawn for nothing. After knight takes, rook takes, my opponent blundered, and here I don't know why I did not play rook e7 check, just winning the queen. After takes, well, I just retreat with the queen, maybe e3. Instead I took, and, well, after takes, I played this move, pinning the rook, but now I lose at tempo with knight c6, and I have to go back. And after queen f7, well, I play h5, and after g5, I should have played bishop g6. Instead, I've played b4 with the idea of going b5 and kicking this knight out, because I have a very interesting idea which I thought was very clever during the game, except that I missed a tactic based on the fact that my king is on f1. The reason I put the king on f1 was because I didn't want to have to deal with any back rank checkmates, but it kind of backfired. Here my opponent took the pawn, and now I played b5. The knight goes back, and, well, here I'm actually losing. If my opponent had played king h1, I mean queen h1, well, after king e2 there's really no defense after to this move. You can throw in the queen, but that's just losing, and, well, if you go king d2 then you just get mated. So after knight a5, this was my idea, and here I thought queen f7 was the only move. And after this move, I go back with check, and I'm picking up this pawn. And now I really like my position again, because now there is really no queen h1 check, because, well, you can't play rook e6 as a follow-up. So my opponent goes back, and now I'm up a pawn. My bishop is better than this knight, so if I go into an endgame, I like my chances. I mean, I can't really lose. So I just decided to trade and play g4, so that my opponent can't play for h5. And after knight b7, bishop f5. And now there's a double attack against my pawn and the bishop, because the rook is also attacking it. So I have to go rook e5. And here my opponent had to take, and this was his best chance, because now I have these doubled isolated pawns. If I take with the rook, that's even worse. Now black is just winning, because the king is just gonna take the pawn, and, well, these two pawns are gonna be very strong in the endgame, so this should be, at the very least, a struggle for white to make a draw. Although practically speaking, it might even just be winning for black. But instead my opponent played this move, h5. And after f3, he took, and here I decided not to take with a pawn and allow him to trade his knight for my bishop whenever he wants to. And, well, here my opponent just blundered. And, well, now I'm just completely winning. I mean, after this, there's really not much to analyze. Now, when I was filming the game, the video got cut off. So this is about as much as I remember from the game. And my opponent played on for, like, I don't know, maybe a dozen moves. And after that, he resigned, because there's really nothing for him to do. But yeah, I mean, I wasn't happy about the fact that I could have lost the game by missing that move, queen h1. So I should play better next time. So if you like the video, hit the like button, and share and subscribe, and I will see you next time.